Smart people don't fail loudly. They fail quietly, slowly, in ways that look like responsibility, caution, and intelligence from the outside. That's why nobody warns them. Everyone assumes they'll figure it out. And that assumption is exactly what destroys them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being smart gives you tools that also become traps. And if you don't know which ones turn against you, intelligence works against your future, not for it. Smart people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because their mind keeps finding reasons not to move. And those reasons sound logical. That's the danger. Here's the first trap. Smart people overthink action. They don't jump. They analyze. They model outcomes. They consider edge cases. They see risks other people don't. That feels like strength. But action lives in uncertainty. And overthinking converts uncertainty into paralysis. Less intelligent people act sooner because they don't see as many reasons to hesitate. Smart people see too many, so they wait. They optimize. They prepare. They improve the plan. And while they're thinking, time passes. Opportunities decay. Energy drops. Momentum never forms. That's not wisdom. That's delay disguised as intelligence. Here's the second trap. Smart people mistake understanding for progress. They read, they learn, they research, they consume endlessly. And because they understand more, they feel like they're moving forward. But understanding without execution creates an illusion of advancement. Your brain rewards comprehension with dopamine, so learning feels productive. Even when nothing changes, smart people get addicted to thinking, to frameworks, to theories. And because thinking feels safe, they stay there. Less intelligent people get bored, so they act. And action beats comprehension over any long timeline. Here's the third trap. Smart people are excellent at explaining failure. They can articulate why something didn't work. They can diagnose flaws. They can identify structural issues. They can rationalize outcomes convincingly. That ability protects ego. Instead of adapting behavior, they refine explanations. They become right instead of effective. They say, the timing wasn't right. The system is broken. That approach is flawed. Sometimes that's true, but truth without movement is useless. And smart people often choose being correct over being persistent. Less intelligent people don't explain as well, so they just try again. And repetition wins. Here's the fourth trap. Smart people delay commitment. They want optionality. They want to keep doors open. They don't want to choose too early and be wrong. So they hedge. They half commit. They test without pressure. That feels smart? It's not. Half commitment produces half feedback, and half feedback makes it impossible to know what works. So smart people stay uncertain longer. Less intelligent people commit fully sooner. They get clearer feedback faster. They adjust faster. And clarity compounds. Here's another trap no one talks about. Smart people protect their identity. They've been praised for being smart, so they avoid situations where they might look incompetent. Being a beginner threatens the identity. So they choose environments where intelligence matters more than execution. They talk, they advise, they critique, they stay above the mess. But success is built inside the mess. Less intelligent people don't protect identity as tightly. They're willing to look bad, so they learn faster. Here's a painful truth. Smart people often fail because they require internal certainty before external action. They want to feel confident, prepared, sure. But certainty comes after exposure, not before. By waiting for certainty, smart people delay the very thing that would create it. Less intelligent people tolerate uncertainty better because they don't expect to feel ready. They move while confused, and confusion clears through action. Here's the next trap. Smart people intellectualize fear. Instead of saying, I'm scared, they say, I'm being strategic. I'm waiting for better information. I'm minimizing risk. That sounds mature. But most of the time, it's fear wearing a suit. Fear of being wrong. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of wasting effort. Less intelligent people feel fear too. They just don't dress it up. They move anyway. Here's the trap that ruins smart people long term. They confuse complexity with effectiveness. They build elaborate plans, detailed systems, sophisticated strategies, but complexity increases friction, and friction kills follow-through. Simple plans get executed, complex plans get admired. Less intelligent people choose simpler paths. They repeat basic actions relentlessly, and repetition beats sophistication. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Smart people often believe they're above fundamentals. They want advanced tactics, nuanced strategies, edge cases, but fundamentals create results. Showing up, doing the work, repeating boring actions. Less intelligent people stay with basics longer. They don't rush to optimize, so they build stronger foundations. Here's the emotional trap. Smart people feel pressure to live up to expectations. Others expect them to succeed, so failure feels heavier, public, defining, so they avoid situations where failure is visible. They choose safe environments, stable paths, predictable outcomes. That protects reputation. It caps growth. Less intelligent people feel less pressure, so they take bigger swings. And bigger swings create outlier results. Now, let's talk about perfectionism. Smart people are good at seeing flaws, so they delay shipping, delay publishing, delay starting. They want things to be correct, polished, defensible. But progress doesn't care about correctness. It cares about iteration. Less intelligent people ship rough work. They learn faster. They improve publicly. Smart people polish privately and never release. Here's a brutal truth. Smart people are more likely to confuse potential with destiny. They've been told they have potential, so they assume success is inevitable. They don't feel urgency. They think they can always turn it on later. Later never comes. Less intelligent people don't feel entitled to success, so they work like it's fragile. They move early. They stay longer, and they win more often. Here's another trap. Smart people love certainty. They want proof something works before committing. But proof only exists after commitment, so they wait. Less intelligent people accept uncertainty as normal. They commit first. Proof follows. This is why smart people often say, "I need more data," when what they really need is exposure. Here's the loop smart people get stuck in. Think, analyze, doubt, delay, think more. It feels productive. It's not. It's a closed loop. Less intelligent people break loops with action, and action creates open loops. Feedback, momentum, learning. Now, let's talk about boredom. Smart people get bored easily. They crave stimulation, novelty, intellectual challenge, but success is repetitive, monotonous, unglamorous, so smart people abandon things once they become boring. Less intelligent people tolerate boredom longer. They stay, and staying compounds. This is why smart people often start strong and fade, while average people start slow and overtake them. Now here's the hardest truth. Intelligence amplifies your flaws. If you're disciplined, intelligence multiplies results. If you're avoidant, intelligence multiplies avoidance. Most people use intelligence to justify inaction, not to drive execution. That's why smart people fail more than others, not because they're incapable, but because their mind keeps protecting them from the discomfort required to win. Because once you understand why intelligence backfires, you need to learn how to use it without letting it sabotage you. And that requires a completely different operating rule. The moment intelligence stops hurting you is the moment it stops being in charge. That's the shift. Smart people don't fail because they think too much. They fail because thinking is allowed to delay action. So the fix is not think less. The fix is change what thinking is allowed to do. High-performing smart people use intelligence for navigation, not permission. They think after acting, not before. They don't ask, "Is this the perfect move?" They ask, "What's the smallest move that gives me real feedback?" That one question turns intelligence from a brake into an engine. Here's the rule that changes everything for smart people. Thinking is only allowed after exposure. No more thinking in isolation. No more planning without pressure. No more learning without execution. If your thinking isn't attached to a real-world test, it's not allowed to continue. That rule feels restrictive. That's why it works. Now let's talk about commitment. Because smart people avoid it in subtle ways. They explore. They keep options open. They test lightly. That sounds wise. It's not. Commitment is what creates clarity. Half commitment creates permanent confusion. So high-performing smart people commit earlier, not later, not blindly, temporarily. They commit to a time-boxed experiment. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, no evaluation during the window, no rethinking, no optimization, just execution. That removes intelligence from sabotage mode. Now let's talk about fear. Because this is where intelligence hides it best. Fear doesn't show up as panic in smart people. It shows up as questions. What if this isn't optimal? What if there's a better path? What if I waste time? Those questions sound intelligent. They're not. They're fear asking for delay. High-performing smart people don't answer those questions. They defer them. They say, "We'll review after the experiment." That's it. No debate. No analysis. Fear loses power when it's not given airtime. Now let's talk about identity. Smart people attach their worth to being correct, to having good explanations, to being right. That identity is deadly because success doesn't care if you're right. It cares if you persist. So the identity has to change. You stop being the smart one. You become the finisher. Finishers don't need perfect logic. They need follow-through, and follow-through makes intelligence useful instead of dangerous. Now, let's talk about complexity. Smart people overcomplicate because complexity feels impressive. High performers intentionally simplify. They ask, "What's the dumbest version of this that still works?" Then they do that, over and over. Repetition beats sophistication. Every time. Now, let's talk about boredom. This is where smart people lose their advantage. They need novelty, but novelty resets progress. So high-performing smart people manufacture interest inside repetition. They track tiny improvements. They gamify consistency. They focus on precision, not excitement. They accept that boredom is not a signal to quit. It's a signal that the foundation is setting. Now let's talk about learning. Smart people love learning. That's not the problem. The problem is learning without friction. High performers attach learning to consequence, deadlines, public commitments, real stakes. They don't learn in private forever. They learn just enough to act. Then they act. Then they learn again. That loop turns intelligence into progress. Now let's talk about failure. Smart people fear failure because it threatens identity. High performers redefine failure. Failure is not being wrong. Failure is not testing. If you don't test, you don't fail. You stagnate, so they fail fast, cheaply, and often. And because they expect it, it doesn't shock them. It informs them. Now let's talk about self-trust. Smart people often lack it. Not because they're unreliable, because they overthink promises. They promise big, then delay, then break trust with themselves. High performers promise small. They execute. Then they increase the promise slowly. Self-trust compounds like interest. Once it's built, action becomes easier. Thinking becomes quieter. Now let's talk about urgency. Smart people think urgency is irrational. It's not. Urgency is respect for time. High performers don't panic. They prioritize. They act early when costs are low. Smart people act late when costs are high. That's the difference. Now let's talk about the final operating rule. This rule saves smart people from themselves. If an action can give feedback in under 30 days, you are not allowed to think about it for more than 30 minutes. That's it. No exceptions. If you break this rule, intelligence wins. And intelligence will talk you out of everything. Now let's bring this down to reality. If you are smart and stuck, here's what's actually happening. You're waiting to feel sure. You're optimizing before committing. You're explaining instead of executing. None of that is intelligence. It's avoidance with better vocabulary. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Now, the final challenge. This is not symbolic. It's surgical. Identify one thing you've been overthinking for weeks or months. 1. Set a 30-minute timer. Decide the smallest action that creates real-world feedback. Not learning, not planning, action. Then do it immediately. No more thinking, no justification, no optimization, just execution. Afterward, you're allowed to think again. That's how intelligence becomes leverage. If this exposed how your mind has been sabotaging you, leave a comment with one word: executed. And subscribe if you want more of this. Not advice for average minds, but operating rules that let smart people finally win. Because intelligence was never the problem, letting it delay action was. And now you know the difference.